Hello everyone and welcome to the latest episode of Sean's Movie Crusades. My name is Sean Wasserkrug and I'm here to review all the latest movies in theaters as well as any of you recommend, whether they be recent films or old school movies. Now if you guys were watching the previous video, I went over the top 11 through 20 honorable mentions for top movies of the year. This is the top 10 movies of 2018. Before we get into the list, don't forget to go down and hit that like, share, and subscribe button. And also don't forget to head over to Facebook and find Sean's Movie Crusades on there so you guys are stayed up to date with all the latest videos. Now, to the top movies of 2018. These are easily my favorite movies of the year. Now, whether they were guilty pleasure films, like I said, Ready Player One was for my honorable mentions, or whether they were just incredibly well done films overall, these, to me, in my opinion, are the 10 best films of the year. No, most of these are not going to be up for Best Picture when the Oscars or Golden Globes come around. But to me, these are the movies that really affected me, whether they've been fantastic stories, directed amazingly, the cast, the performances overall, or just everything that the film itself combines to give me an overall movie-going experience. These are the 10 films that basically shook me to my core, and by the end of the film made me just go, wow, that was amazing. And so that's what these top 10 movies are. Actually, I'm sorry, 11 movies. There is one movie that I left off the honorable mentions, and I'm actually leaving off the top 10, but I do want it to be talked about because it is probably one of, if not the best film of the year, but it is a documentary, and because of that, I left it off the list, but it still deserved to be talked about. So I'm going to talk about it right now before I jump into the top 10, and that is the documentary, to me, of the year, Mr. Rogers' Won't You Be My Neighbor. This documentary is amazing. I grew up around the time. I mean, pretty much anyone who's of a certain age has grown up with Mr. Rogers. When I was a kid, he was around. I didn't watch him a whole lot. I usually had other shows like Reading Rainbow, Barney, Lamb Chop, stuff like that. But I would catch the occasional Mr. Rogers episode. Watching it today, watching this documentary though, it makes me wish that I had watched it more as a child. The whole story of Mr. Rogers in general is amazing. The stuff that he goes through and the stuff that he does, he was a badass. He broke the mold on so many things. He saved PBS. I mean, they were literally going to cancel PBS because they needed to raise $5 million to keep the channel going, and he had to go to Congress and try to save the channel, and everyone there was failing miserably, and then Mr. Rogers went up and basically in a span of a 5-minute monologue got them their $5 million, and they're still going today. The guy was just not afraid at all to talk about topics that you never would see on children's shows, such as death, divorce, loss, anything like that. There's one particular scene that still to this day, and it's been a month or so since I've seen this documentary, that I still think about all the time, where it was during the Bobby Kennedy assassination, and he actually has his main puppet, Daniel the Tiger, ask I'm blanking on her name right now. It's Fairline or Fairdeline. I'm sure it's saying it wrong, but he literally has the puppet Daniel the Tiger ask her what assassination means, and for me, that blew me away that they actually aired that, and they used that to kind of teach kids about death in a way. There was also another beautiful scene between the same two characters where Daniel the Tiger said he felt weird, he felt different, and he felt like he wasn't accepted from others, and she sings a beautiful song to him. He also was accepting of African Americans when most people weren't. He had his own Francois. I can never say the guy's name when it pops up. But basically, this gentleman, he had him on his show as a cop which was also really Francois Clemens. He had him on the show as a cop, and back then that was scary for an African American to be, especially on TV or just a cop in general. And he made him be on the show and be a cop, and he showed him the utmost respect, to the point where Francois Clemens said that Mr. Rogers was like a father to him. Just everyone in this documentary does an amazing job of just explaining the life of Mr. Rogers and how Mr. Rogers has touched them in their hearts over the years. And even to you guys watching it, and to me personally, throughout this whole documentary, I felt the love that Mr. Rogers felt for everybody and everyone that he was ever in contact with, even to the people he talked to, like I'm talking to you right now. And the way the movie ends is such an amazing scene altogether, where they basically have you close your eyes and just sit there in silence for a minute and think about the people or person that was most influential to you to help you become the man or woman that you are today. And it's such a powerful scene. And I'm, like I said, I know a lot of people aren't huge documentary fans, but this is definitely one that deserves to be watched. And while I don't have it in my top 10 of the year because it is a documentary, if I were to put it in my top 10, it probably would have been number 1 or number 2 overall, but I'm keeping it out. But I wanted it to be talked about on this film, so that way you guys know about it, and you guys go out of your way to try and watch this documentary, as it definitely deserves to be seen by everyone, and it deserves to be talked about by everyone, because the way the world is today, this is definitely the documentary that we all needed to watch right now, to just make us feel like there's still hope, and to just keep going for what your dreams are, and to never let anyone tell you differently, and to just always keep going. So, Won't You Be My Neighbor? Like I said, honorable mention, probably one of the best movies of the year. It's not on the list, but it definitely deserves to be, and that's why I'm going for it right now. So, let's go into the actual top 10 movies of 2018. Number 10, probably my favorite action film of the year that's not a comic book movie, and that goes to Mission Impossible Fallout. I love, for the most part, all the Mission Impossible films. I'm not a huge fan of Mission Impossible 2, but Tom Cruise kills it in all these films, and every net one after that, he just does something even more crazier, because he does his own stunts. And in this one, he actually breaks his ankle bone jumping from another building to another, and the badass self, Tom Cruise himself, breaks his ankle and continues to climb up this building and run off screen. And they, to the point where they actually kept that scene in the movie. If you actually watch this movie, and this scene happens, you can actually slow it down, and you can see his ankle snap. And then you watch him walk off screen with a broken ankle. And you can only commend him as how much of an amazing actor Tom Cruise is. Not because he does his own stunts, which is amazing all on its own, but just that through the years, this dude's in his 50s now, and he just keeps bringing it like a 20-some-year-old action star. And he just captivates you. And then they added Henry Cavill, Superman, into this movie. And he does a great job as well. And then, of course, the whole original cast. You got Simon Pegg, Ving Rhames, Michelle Monaghan, who we haven't seen since the third film. Sean Harris returns as the villain Solomon Lane, who he's not a favorite to most people, but I actually thought he was a fantastic villain in the previous, Rogue Nation. I thought he did a fantastic job. He's great in this one as well. And then also Rebecca Ferguson is back as Elsa Faust, who I thought was a fantastic partner / enemy of Tom Cruise in the previous film. Also, the action in this movie is insane. Whether it's the crazy stunts that Tom Cruise does, or the crazy set pieces that they have going on from beginning to end, this movie has you on the edge of its seat with the insane action sequences. Yes, it does tend to get confusing, but most Mission Impossible movies do, at a point where there's tons of twists and backstabbing and stuff going on, and masks and everything. But I had a blast watching this movie. It's easily one of the best Mission Impossible films, if not the best Mission Impossible film they've ever done. I can't not wait till the next one comes out and to see what crazy stunt Tom Cruise does then. But this definitely was, like I said, my favorite action film that was a non-comic book movie of the year. And for anyone who's not a Mission Impossible fan, that sucks. But definitely could not recommend this movie more, and that's why it comes in at number 10 overall for the year. Going to number 9, this is on a lot of people's best of lists, and for some people, it's considered completely overrated. And that is Marvel's Black Panther. It actually got nominated. I'll be doing a video eventually about Golden Globes before it comes out here next week. But yeah, it got nominated for one of the Best Picture nominations, and I don't know. I don't know if I would go that far. I don't consider it a Best Picture nominee, but I do commend Black Panther. And once again, Ryan Coogler pops up on this list again as a fantastic director. What he does with this movie is amazing, especially for a character that not a lot of people know about. I mean, we did get an introduction to Black Panther and Captain America: Civil War, but just to kind of keep going with the film in general. And kind of like in Dark Knight, T'Challa, Black Panther, he's not even the most interesting character in this film. And that actually goes to Michael B. Jordan, once again popping up on this list as well, as Eric Killmonger. I felt like Michael B. Jordan's performance as Eric Killmonger was one of the best of the year. I feel like he's one of the best supporting actors of the year. I feel like he should be nominated for his performance in this film. He's one of the few villains of recent date where, while yes, he's going about things the right way, or the wrong way, sorry, I fully understand why he's doing what he does, and it makes total sense to me, even though he's going about it the wrong way. I also loved Andy Serkis's character, Ulysses Crane, or Claw, Ulysses Claw. I don't know why I said Crane. I love his performance in this. Now, everyone knows that I'm a huge Andy Serkis fan, and I think he gets criminally underrated every year, and he should have had at least 5 Oscars by now, and he hasn't had a single one yet. I love him as Claw. He's just having so much fun as a Marvel villain. And if there was one knock in the movie for me, it was because they didn't use him enough. But he does a great job. Chadwick Boseman, he does a great job as T'Challa. Then you also have a great supporting cast. Lupa Nyong'o does good as Nakia. Denai Guerrera, from many people might know from The Walking Dead. She's amazing as Okoye. I did not know about the Okoye comic book character, but now she's one of my favorites, and I can't wait to see more from her. As these movies continue to come out. Martin Freeman does a good job as Everett Ross. You've got Daniel Kaluuya as W'Kabi. You had Letitia Wright as Shuri. She became a favorite of everybody's. The brother-sister relationship between Shuri and T'Challa is awesome. And of course, Winston Duke as M'Baku. I love M'Baku. I think he's a badass, and I hope that they do more with his character in the future films, because I just loved everything that his character does. You had a great cameo from Sterling Kane Brown. You also had, Forrest Whitaker, Angela Bassett. The cast is fantastic in this film. The action sequences, they're solid. The end battle was a little too CGI-y for me. I felt like they really should have had more face-to-face between Boseman and Michael B. Jordan in that final battle. But the actual end piece with Michael B. Jordan, I thought was fantastic. And his last monologue in the film, I still remember to this day, and it's a standout of the movie. Yes, the movie does feel a lot like Lion King 2: Simba's Pride. A lot. Except it's with superheroes. But I still enjoy this movie a lot. It's shot beautifully. It looks amazing. It's funny. It has action. It's got its dramatic parts in it as well. And that's why Black Panther, I get why it's nominated for Best Picture. It's not personally would be mine, but I understand why it's breaked all the records, or box office records, and getting all the recognition that it deserves. And that's why it is coming in at number 9 on the list. Going to number 8, this one's came out recently, and I had been excited to see this ever since I saw the trailer for it. There are just certain movies that come out that you can tell are Oscar movies, and either that means they're really, really boring, and you're just not going to, enjoy them, or they're going to be fantastic films in terms of acting and story, and that's what this one is, and that is the number 8 movie of the year, Green Book. This story, like I said, based on true events, this follows basically two characters. You got Tony Lip, or Tony Valonga, or Valonga. I still think I'm saying that wrong. And that's Viggo Mortensen, and I've loved Viggo Mortensen ever since he was Aragorn from the Lord of the Rings franchise. You also have Mahershala Ali. He plays Dr. Don Shirley. And basically, and Mahershala Ali, he's amazing in everything lately. I mean, whether it be Moonlight or Luke Cage or anything. He's also going to be on this list a little bit later. But he's easily one of the best actors out there today. But basically, the story follows these two characters. Tony is basically kind of this kind of muscle guy, bouncer dude. He's the guy who just gets shit done. And basically, he gets hired by Don Shirley, and Don Shirley is actually a piano player, and he's about ready to take a tour down south. And, of course, this is 1962, where the South is not very kind to African Americans, and so he hires Tony to kind of be his driver, and kind of his protection, if not almost basically like kind of like a road manager, as he goes through this 2-month tour. And from there, I mean, you have basically the relationship is just, boss and employee, but it devolves into friendship that they had all the way until their last few days that they were alive back in 2013. It's got so much heart in the film. It does cover a lot in the movie in terms, it covers race, it covers sexuality, it covers stereotypes, it covers the times in the 60s, it covers music, it covers all sorts of different kind of spectrums of the film, and for the most part, it hits a lot of them very well. It doesn't hit the homosexuality part nearly as hard as it should, to the point where I almost felt they could have left that out. I don't want them to leave that out. I feel like if you're going to address it, if it is a true thing that happened, then they should have probably hit home on it a little bit more than just the one scene they actually gave it. But Viggo Mortensen and Mahershala Ali crushed this role. It's easily the best thing I've seen Viggo in quite a long time. He is basically completely all in on the Tony character. He's a tough guy, who just, you at the beginning of the movie, you just think he's a tough, dumbass racist, but by the end of the film, you just see that he's just a guy who's just trying to get by, and the way he turns around on his, on just working for Don Shirley to eventually almost being basically Don Shirley's best friend by the end of the film is a great turnaround, and just some of their dialogue back and forth is done fantastic. You also have some great supporting cast, mainly Linda Cardellini. She plays Dolores, which is Tony's wife in the role. She doesn't have a whole lot to do, but I enjoyed her every time she was on screen. Like I said, there are certain things in the movie that I wouldn't say didn't work, but there's just things I wish they would have elaborated more on. Like I said, the homosexuality angle for the Don Shirley character. There was also one scene that felt like it was going to be bigger than what it was, and then they just, I guess they either just cut it out of the movie or they felt like it wasn't worth keeping in the film. And then there was this opening scene with the Copa that just, I don't want to go too spoiler into it, because there will be, I forgot to say this in the beginning of this video, I did in the other video, this is a spoiler alert. There are certain things that I will go over in this film, and I guess I could go over it with this one. He takes this dude's hat, and by taking this dude's hat, they shut down the Copa because he's that angry, but then at the end, he gives the hat back to the dude. So naturally, you would think the Copa would open back up, but instead, it ends up being shut down for 2 months, and that's why he takes the job with Don Shirley. But he took the hat on purpose because I guess he wanted to have an in with the guy, but nothing ever really comes out of it, so it was just a weird scene overall. I guess it was really only put in there because that explains how he got the job with Don, but it was just a weird scene to not have anything build upon it. But other than that, like I said, fantastic film all throughout. phenomenal performances, especially for Viggo Mortensen and Mahershala Ali. Tells great messages throughout the film as well as, basically accepting people who are different and keeping yourself open to new possibilities and friendships. But Green Book is definitely one of the better movies of the year. It's definitely something that a lot of people should look out for. It is definitely getting a lot of reward recognition, so you're probably going to be hearing a lot about it here in the next month or so. But it's definitely something that people should go out of the way to try to see. Going to the next film, number 7. I posted a review a little about almost a month ago now. Huge fan of this film. It's probably not on anyone's top 10 list, which is a crime because I feel like this movie was one of the best movies of the year, and that is Bad Times at the El Royale. I loved this movie. The way it was shot by Drew Goddard, who also did Cabin in the Woods, which is one of my favorite horror films of all time. The acting, the story, everything about this movie, I loved. I just wish there was more. And it was already over 2 hours long, and I still wanted more from this movie. The cast in this film alone, you have Jeff Bridges, Cynthia Erivo, Dakota Johnson, John Hamm, Chris Hemsworth, and the best performance I've ever seen Chris Hemsworth in outside of Thor. Kaylee Spaney, Lewis Pullman. There's just all these great performances in the film. Like I said, it's shot beautifully. There's a phenomenal one shot done about 20-30 minutes into the film that I thought was fantastic. And for people who don't know what a one shot is, that's when they literally start a scene and they shoot it all throughout without cutting to a different camera angle. And it's usually about a 5-10 minute long scene. And it just follows this one character's path through everything. The way the story structure of the film is done, I loved immensely. There's really nothing I could say negative about this film. I just loved everything about this film and how it was done. And I think Cynthia Erivo, who probably is not going to get the recognition she deserves, I feel like she should have been nominated for Best Actress, or at least had the people backing her for this performance. I thought this was her breakthrough performance. She did have another film this year in Widows that she was okay in, but this was her kind of, hey everyone, this is me kind of role. And she does a great job. She does great working off of Jeff Bridges in the film. And like I said, Chris Hemsworth was awesome in the movie. I can't say enough good things about this film. And this is a movie that I think everyone should go out of the way to try to see. Which I'm going to say that with probably all these films. But Bad Times at the El Royale looked amazing. It is amazing. And I just want more people to see this film. Because I feel like this is a movie that is criminally under the radar with a lot of people. And I feel like it should be talked about a lot more than what it actually did get talked about. So yeah, Bad Times at the El Royale at number 7. And we go into number 6. And number 6 is almost, I would say, if Bad Times at the El Royale is like number 1 movie that people aren't talking about that should be talking about, this is like 1A. And that is Annihilation. Annihilation is easily the best science fiction film of the year. It came out in, I believe, February. February. And this movie just got screwed over. First off, it got released on Netflix outside of the U.S. And then in the U.S. it got put in theaters, but didn't get put in a lot of theaters. So they literally didn't get enough people to be able to watch this film. And it's like they just couldn't win with this movie. And I still to this day, I have no idea why this movie got treated the way it did. This movie is fucking amazing. Natalie Portman does a phenomenal job as Lena in this. I know she's getting a lot of recognition for this movie Von Lux that just came out. I personally haven't seen it, but she is amazing in this role as Lena. It's got a great cast all the way throughout. It looks gorgeous. This movie should have been seen in theaters, and if you guys didn't see it in theaters, it needs to be seen on a 4K screen or at minimum Blu-ray. The scenes in this movie are spellbinding. I mean, every shot in this film is gorgeous, and just shot after shot after shot, I just had my mouth open just in amazement of how beautiful this film looked. And it also had one of the most terrifying scenes in movies this year with the bear scene. And that's all I'm going to say about that. But that bear scene, even though it was like 5 minutes long, was so amazing. And I felt like like I said, this movie's just not getting talked about enough. It's got a phenomenal female cast. Like I said, you had Natalie Portman, you had you had Jennifer Jason Leigh as Dr. Ventress. You had Gina Rodriguez as Anya. You had Tuva Novotny, and I'm saying that so wrong, and I apologize. She plays Cass Shepard. Tessa Thompson, once again on this list. She plays Josie in the film. And then you also have Oscar Isaac. He plays Natalie Portman's husband in the movie. Kane. Like I said, all of them are fantastic in the film. The only thing that maybe might have knocked this film for most people is that the way it ended. It's left very open-ended, which might have just rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. I actually didn't mind it. I thought it left the door open for a potential sequel if they decided they wanted to. But like I said, this movie is gorgeous. The story is fantastic. The acting is fantastic. I literally could not think of enough great things to say about this movie. I just, like I said, like with Bad Times at El Royale, if this video helps people go out and see this movie more, then I'm excited. Because I feel like Annihilation and Bad Times at El Royale are two movies that are not being seen, that should have been seen by everybody. And like I said, if this helps people see it, then I'm ecstatic for it. And if you guys do see these films, mainly these two, and whether you like them, dislike them, or anything like that, leave comments for me. I want to talk to people about these two films, because everyone I talk to has never seen either of these films, and it's a crime. And so if you guys have seen these, leave comments. Let me know what you thought of these films, because these two movies are criminally going under the radar, and they don't deserve to be. So now we go into our top 5 movies of 2018. These are the creme de la creme, if I'm going to say this properly. These were the 5 movies that I felt they all could have been number 1. They all could have been number 1 in their own right. These movies, in different parts of the films, gave me goosebumps. They made me feel certain things. They maybe even made me emotional. There are definitely, I would say almost every one of these movies to a point had me almost in tears, if not utterly uncomfortable in a way. The performances in all the rest of these films are great. And most of these, I think, all these movies that I have left on this list, there are people in these, well, not all of them, but most of them, all should have had Best Actor or Actresses nominations, whether they be supporting or lead. All of these have Best Director nominations, in my opinion, and they deserve to be watched, they deserve to be praised, and they deserve to be treated with the utmost respect. And we go into the number 5, and this was my number 1 for the longest time, until it finally got knocked out, and that is A Quiet Place. A Quiet Place is such a beautiful film. It is easily the best, or the second best horror film of the year, even though the number 1 horror film I don't consider a horror movie, and that will be talked about here in a little bit later. But A Quiet Place is an amazing film. John Krasinski does a phenomenal job directing and acting in this role. I feel like this is just the tip of the iceberg for John Krasinski, and we got so much more to look forward to with him. I can't wait to see what he directs next. I actually think it's going to be a sequel to this. Emily Blunt, who's actually his wife in real life, plays his wife in this. She does an amazing job. She already got a Golden Globe nomination for Mary Poppins. I feel like she should have gotten nominated for this role, because I felt she did so much more in this role than she did in Mary Poppins. But I get that that's the movie that people are going to recognize her for, and not this, which is also a crime. Millicent Simmons, she plays their daughter in this. She's amazing in the role. She's an actual deaf girl, and the way she plays her character is flawless, and she should get recognition, and she's not getting any. The way this movie is done is just, it's beautiful. For many people who don't know the movie, which I'm sure everyone does know this, is basically there's an alien invasion, and the aliens are, in a sense, blind, and they only go off of sound. So literally, if you make a single sound, you're dead, because they're going to find you, and they're going to kill you. So, I mean, you could burp, or fart, or just do, and that sound right there, you're dead. So literally, the entire world has to go to just downright silence in order to survive. And I mean, the reason why this family in particular is able to survive the way they do is because they have a deaf daughter. And like I said, Millicent Simmons, who plays Regan. That's how they're able to do so well in the film, because they already learned sign language, and all that kind of stuff. So they kind of had a heads up over everybody else. But just the way you see the family figure things out so that way they could live and survive. How they use sand to walk around in so that way they don't make footstep sounds. How they soundproof their house. How they set up light traps so they know whether it's safe or whether it's not safe. How they set up booby traps for the aliens so that way they can try to draw them away if they get too close to the house. Just the way this movie is shot, it's like I said, it's beautifully well shot by John Krasinski. The cast, the only other person in the cast I'm really leaving out is their son, Noah Jupe. He plays Marcus. Like I said, he does great too. He's just not given as much as Krasinski, Emily Blunt, or Millicent Simmons is given. But he does really good in his role as well. But the intensity and the stress that this movie made me feel the whole time watching it was insane. Like, I was watching this in theaters, and I was literally just, like, on the edge of my seat like this the entire time. Anytime there was a sound made, I was just losing my mind because you didn't know what was going to happen. And it was just... I love this movie so much. And this movie did get more critical acclaim. So there's a lot of people that have seen this film. There are certain people who just couldn't like the movie because it was too quiet. That was the whole fucking point of this movie. Is that they had to be quiet to basically live. And the sound design of this movie was insane because of that reason alone. And so for people who didn't like the movie because it was too quiet for them, clearly weren't understanding what the movie was really about. Because and that basically further even proves that if this had happened in real life, you wouldn't have survived. Because if you can't stay quiet for any amount of time, then you're dead. And that's what this movie was showing, was the ability to adapt, to survive, to live on. And like I said, John Krasinski does a fantastic job with it, and that's why this is my number 5 rated movie of the year for top movies. They're going to be doing a sequel. I can't wait. The end of the movie upset a lot of people because it left it open-ended. That's because they left it open-ended for a sequel, and I can't wait to see the sequel. Number 4. A lot of people probably wouldn't have this ranked in the top 5. I personally do because of just what it represented and how they were able to actually film this and do this in a way. And that is Avengers Infinity War. This movie is a masterpiece of 10 years in the making. Is the way the Russo brothers shot this and the way they were able to bring all these characters into this movie that have never been together, and the set pieces that they had to shoot to kind of get the chemistry to work with all these different actors was amazing. And the number one thing that they did incredibly well too is that the ability to actually make Thanos a phenomenal character. The Thanos character played by Josh Brolin. Yeah, Thanos played by Josh Brolin. He brings this whole new layer to the role. And just like I said earlier with Eric Killmonger, or Michael B. Jordan's Eric Killmonger, is and it's the exact same thing with Thanos. You don't agree with how he's going about it, and there are better ways he could have gone about it, but you understand what he's doing and why he's doing it, and you can't really get upset or mad at it, except for the fact that he's killing half the universe, but he's doing it for a reason, and the reason makes sense. And he's got a purpose, and it's not just to be evil, it's literally to save everybody, even though he's going about it the wrong way. I mean, he literally could have done so many other different ways that could have still saved everybody without killing everybody, but yeah, this is the way he wanted to do it. But it made sense. And to the point that you actually felt for him at one point in this film. And like I said, I'll probably go into more spoilers for this one, so be on the lookout for this one. But his love for Gamora, played by Zoe Saldana, who I also think should have been nominated for supporting for her performance in this, but we all knew she wasn't going to get supporting for this because it's a comic book movie. She does a fantastic job. The cliff scene, which I'm not going to go any further than that, but the ability to go from such hatred that Gamora has for Thanos to when that one situation flips on her. Didn't mean to snap, but yeah, no snap intended. When you go from her being this fierce, cocky warrior until the thing changes, the whole situation changes, and then you see her just all of a sudden become this little girl to her father is heartbreaking. And then to see Thanos' reaction to it as well was also incredibly heartbreaking. And that whole scene, and then throughout, was just so well done by Josh Brolin as Thanos. Like I said, Zoe Saldana, she does a phenomenal job as Gamora. Everyone does great. Yes, some people don't get used as much as others. I realize that a lot of people got pissed off because they fell in love with Black Panther 2 months prior, and then he was barely in this movie. But let's face it, when they were filming Infinity War, I don't think anyone expected Black Panther to be as huge as it was. But yeah, there are some characters that don't get as much to do as other characters in this film. But the actual ending, the actual snap ending, literally rip my heart out, destroy it, and then end movie. I remember the first time I went and saw this, the silence of this film when this movie ended. The credits were rolling, and the audience was usually when a movie ends, people get up and walk out, or if it's a Marvel film, because they know there's after credit scenes, they'll sit around and talk and laugh, pull out their phones or whatever, and wait until the next credit scene happens. And this one, it was dead silent for 5 straight minutes after that movie ended, because literally everyone in that theater was destroyed by the way the movie ended. No one talked. You could literally drop a pin in that movie theater and you would have heard it. That is how insane this movie ended and how it affected people. And it was, like I said, it was incredibly well done. The action scenes were great. The whole battle with Thanos against Spider-Man, Doctor Strange, Iron Man, Nebula, Drax, Star-Lord, that whole scene was fantastic. Even the beginning battle scene with Thor, Hulk, and Thanos in the beginning. You also had the Tony Stark, Spider-Man, and Doctor Strange against the Black Order. That was a great scene in New York. There's so many great scenes in this movie. Like I said, everyone brings their A game from the Marvel movies to this, and it leads it to the insanely finale that is going to happen in this coming up April with Avengers Endgame. Loved this movie. This movie was fantastic. It's probably the one movie that I've seen the most times in theaters this year, because it was worth going to see over and over and over again. Avengers Infinity War might not be considered the best Marvel movie of the year, because like I said, everyone's given that recognition to Black Panther, but this movie, to do what it did with 10 years of films and compiling them all together and bringing everyone together, I thought was a masterpiece, and I thought the Russo brothers did a phenomenal job and should be commended for it. So now we go into our top 3. Now this one was my number 1 for probably the longest of the year, until the eventual number 1, that is still number 1, took it over. I remember the first time I saw this movie, to be honest, I hated it. I hated this movie when I first saw it. There are reasons why I did. Now I'm going to go over them real quick. There are 2 main reasons why I hated this movie the first time I saw it. The first time I saw it, it was advertised for something that it wasn't, that the movie wasn't. The second reason why I hated it, was the theater experience was atrocious. And this is going to be a little side rant, so I apologize. If you can't go to a movie theater and sit for an hour and a half, 2.5 hours, and not be on your phone, or not be able to sit quietly and watch a movie, or not be able to make stupid jokes, or anything to disrupt the movie-going experience for everybody else, then don't go to a fucking movie theater. People paid their money to sit there and watch this film, or any film for that matter, and they don't need you to be this comedic talent, or for you to pull out your phone, or for you to take pictures in the middle of the movie, or for you to think you're funny and make sounds throughout the movie to try to make everyone pay attention to you and not the movie. You're not wanted in a movie theater. Watch your movies at home, because you're not welcome. And I can't stand people who go to a movie theater and ruin the experience for the people who are actually going to watch this film. If you want to be a comedian, go do stand-up at a bar. Don't go into a fucking movie theater and ruin the experience for everybody else. And that's why I hated this movie, because I had that experience. All those things that I just said. happened in this movie as I was trying to watch this movie. And it just kept taking me out of the film. And every 5 seconds, some idiot was doing something stupid, and it was distracting everybody, which therefore was distracting me, not because I was paying attention to what the guy was doing, but because it was all the commotion that the rest of the audience was doing, so naturally I was having a hard time focusing on the film. The first thing that is the reason why is that they advertised this movie as being the scariest movie since The Exorcist. The problem is that when you advertise that, people are expecting this movie to be scary from first scene to final scene. And that's not what this movie is. Now, if you had advertised this movie properly, then I'm sure the audience reaction would have been 1,000 times more positive, and it probably would have been labeled as one of the best movies of the year. Which is why it is my number 3 film of the year, and that is Hereditary. I finally, after bashing this movie because of my experiences, in my apologies, I took it out on the film and not the people that were in the theater. I actually had people come to me and go, Sean, you really should give this movie another watch. And I fought them on it, like, no, it wasn't because of how crappy the experience was. It was the movie. And so finally, they broke me down. I went back and watched this movie, and yes, it was 100% the movie-going experience that I was at. Because actually, I sat down in a new theater where it was quiet, and no one was trying to be a comedian, and people kept their damn phones in their pocket, and this movie is phenomenally fantastic. The art direction of this film, the way Ari Aster, the director, shoots this film, each film is an artistic masterpiece. The way he shoots, even the opening scene is shot and looking at a dollhouse, and it's progressively closer and closer to one room in the dollhouse. And then as it situations into one room, all of a sudden the actors come through the room. So you basically turn this into a dollhouse into a real room. I don't know if that made sense to anybody, but anyone who's seen the movie knows exactly what I'm talking about. This is the first movie since The Sixth Sense, all the way back in 96 or 98 came out, where if you were watching this for the first time, if you go back and watch it a second time, it is a different movie experience after watching it. And the reason being is that the film leaves so many breadcrumbs and clues throughout the first time you watch it that you don't notice them and you don't see them. And all this stuff happens, and you're like, well, that stuff just felt tacked on. Like there was no reason for the movie to go that way. And then you go back and you watch it again. And literally, from the first 5 minutes of the movie, throughout the entire film, they are building you up and setting you up for the events that happen in this movie. And that second watch through, you are seeing all this, and you're just realizing how fucking amazing this movie really is. The performances of this film are insane. Toni Collette gives, to me, the second best performance of anyone this year, as Annie. Her range from a dedicated mother to the loss of a certain situation to going just insane to a point. And just utter rage. Toni Collette crushes this role. And there's only one performance outside of Toni Collette's that I would give a better performance than, and we'll get to that. But she murders this movie. Alex Wolff, many people might know from Jumanji. He was the kid that The Rock ended up impersonating in the video game world. His performance as Peter, the older son, without saying what the actual scene is, the car scene. For anyone who has seen this movie, the car scene. I have never felt so uncomfortable watching a movie, and it was a 5-minute scene. The level of just uneasiness and just I'm getting goosebumps right now just talking about this scene. That's how powerful this scene is. That scene. Like I said, I've never felt more comfortable in my life while watching a movie. That 5 minutes was insane, and just it kept building and building and building to finally the crescendo at the end. And then 15-20 minutes later, we get the topping on the cake, and as soon as it happens, you're just like, oh no. And it's just, but the reason why this movie's badly advertised is, like I said, they say it's the scariest movie since The Exorcist. So, like I said, people are expecting this to be a horror movie from beginning to end, and that's not what this movie is. This movie is 2 hours and, I believe, 10 or 20 minutes? 2 hours and 7 minutes, actually. Let's just say 2 hours, based off of, credits, because they count that onto it. For an hour and a half of this movie, it is a family drama. It is about mental illness. It's about loss. It's about guilt. It's about mourning. It is not a horror film at that point. And that I realize that a lot of people are watching the movie, they were expecting this horror film. And so for an hour and a half, they're just waiting for stuff to happen. And nothing happens. And I get that it could make a lot of people restless and disgruntled because they felt like they were being lied to. But if they just would have sat there and just watched the movie, they would have seen this phenomenal family drama that then at the last 30 minutes, it turns it up to an 11 and goes batshit crazy with the horror. Because it's building up the suspense, it's building up the horror throughout the film, but most people aren't noticing it, which is why in the second watch through, you start noticing all this stuff, you start picking up on all these little tells throughout the film, so when the stuff starts actually happening, it actually flows beautifully and naturally. And then on top of Toni Collette and Alex Wolff's performances, Gabriel Byrne does fantastic as Steve, the father. Millie Shapiro, which is what a lot of people are going to focus on in this film, who plays Charlie. That was the real reason why a lot of people got annoyed in that first go-through, is because she makes this sound. And so naturally, some douchebag in the audience had to make that sound every 5 seconds. They thought it was funny, which ruined the experience. But she, in her small role that she has, is great as Charlie. The other big standout is Ann Dowd. Ann Dowd is Joan. She does a great role as basically this mourning mother who kind of helps Annie in her situation that happens in the film without going into spoilers. And just like I said, every shot in this movie is beautifully shot by Ari Aster, and I love this movie so much. And like I said, I hated this movie when it first came out. Because, like I said, the experience took me out of it from people in the theater. But when I actually was able to sit down, focus on the movie, and watch it without being distracted every 5 seconds, this movie was a masterpiece of horror/drama. And, like I said, a second go-through made it a whole nother different experience to me. Everyone that I talked to about this film feel the exact same way. They went back and they watched it a second time with my recommendation, and I was able to have long conversations going into the film with them. And just, this movie is a fantastic film. And when it came out, critics loved the movie, but audiences hated it because they were expecting a crazy-ass horror film for 2 hours, and they got it for 30 minutes. So it was very uneven in terms of audience and critic scores. But this movie is fantastic. It was the best horror film of the year. It's the best family drama of the year. And Toni Collette, like I said, she should be nominated for Best Actress. She isn't getting nominated for it, which is a crime. Alex Wolff should have been nominated for Best Supporting. Ari Aster should have been nominated for Best Director. This movie was beautifully done, and it was fantastic. And I get there's a lot of people out there who don't like horror films, but this is one movie that you guys should go out of your way to try to see. It is amazing to the highest degree. So Hereditary comes in at number 3. Number 2, and this one I knew it was going to be great, but I didn't know if it was going to be this great, and that was Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Now, this one I'm not going to go as great a detail as I did with Hereditary, because I had a few things to go over, but there is a review on the channel already for this film, so after you guys get done watching this, if you want to watch that, go to the video section and check out the review there. But this movie, my favorite comic book movie of the year. It's the animation of this film is insane. The voice cast is incredible. Mahershala Ali pops up again. He plays Uncle Aaron. Shameik Moore as Miles Morales. You got Jake Johnson as Peter Parker. Haley Steinfeld pops up again on the top movies list. She does Gwen Stacy. Brian Tyree Henry as Jefferson Davis. The list goes on and on. I can't name any more in terms of spoilers. But this story is incredibly well done. It has a ton of heart. It's got great humor. The action scenes are awesome. And the best thing about this movie is that it shows, unlike what Venom did, it can show that we can still do Marvel movies that aren't attached to the MCU. Because this is a Sony production. It's not part of the MCU. It could eventually become part of the MCU, and I wouldn't be mad at it. But the animation of this was literally like a comic book movie, or a comic book coming to life. It interjects 2D animation with 3D animation. Like I said, the comic book element is amazing in it as well. The ability and the stories that we could now have because of how great this film was. The possibilities are endless, and I cannot wait to see what they do with it. This, like I said, I loved this movie. I pretty much went to the movie back-to-back days to see this film over and over again because I loved how much this movie was. And that's why it's clocked in at number 2. Like I said, I have a whole lot more about this film. But like I said, I reviewed this movie, so head on over to the video section. Give it a watch, and you guys can see exactly how I felt about the movie in general. But this was the number 2 movie of the year. Number 1, this movie is nominated for Best Picture. It has also got nominations for Best Director, Best Actor, Best Actress. It's well-deserved. I remember seeing the trailer for this going, we'll see how it is. It'll probably be good, but I'm not super excited for it. I sat down, I saw it, I cried like at least 2, maybe 3 times while watching this film. From basically the first shot to the last shot, I was invested. There was one scene where I literally lost all composure. You know, it's like I felt what the actor or actress was feeling in this scene. And I'll elaborate more into that. But that number 1 movie of the year is A Star is Born. Now, I didn't realize when this movie came out that it was the 4th remake, or the 3rd remake of the original. But this movie is amazing. And I know I've been throwing that word out a lot, but I'm starting to run out of words to say. But Bradley Cooper, good God, can this man not do anything? He's a great comedic actor. He's a great action actor. Drama now. The dude can sing. The dude can shred guitar. And he's a pretty good raccoon. Bradley Cooper is amazing in this as Jack. And then you take someone who, personally, I'm not a big fan of in Lady Gaga, and you made me fall in love with Lady Gaga as an actress in this movie. The only things I've seen her in is when she would pop up in, I mean, she had a small role in Sin City 2, but mainly she was in the American Horror Story things, and she was okay. I'm not super crazy about her music, but in this film, Lady Gaga nailed this film. You also have a fantastic supporting performance by Sam Elliott. While he's only in maybe a total of 10 minutes of the movie, those 10 minutes, he knocks it out of the park. There's one particular scene in general, for anyone who's seen the movie, where he's pulling out with his truck, and just the emotion that he gives in that scene is insane. There's also the scene where him and Jack get into it. It's incredibly well done performances by both Bradley Cooper and Sam Elliott in those roles. The rest of the cast, Andrew Dice Clay, who I was never a fan of, he does a fantastic job as Lorenzo, who plays Lady Gaga, who is Allie in the movie. He plays her father. He does a great job. Dave Chappelle has a small cameo role in this. He plays Jack, one of Jack's best friends, Noodles. He does great in his role. But the fantastic thing about all this is literally the performances from Bradley Cooper and Lady Gaga. The music in this movie is fantastic. Literally, there's no one that's going to beat them for Best Original Song, which was Shallow. They're just give them the Oscar already, because no one's going to beat them for it. But that song, that is the movie, or that is the part of the movie where I literally lost myself. When Lady Gaga's character, Allie, walks on that stage for the first time, and this is in the trailer, so this is not like it's a big spoiler, but when she walks up on stage for the first time, you feel that nervousness and that just butterflies in the stomach and just like, I can't do this, and she sees the entire audience, and then she just fucking goes for it. And that whole performance is insanely amazing. And just watching Bradley Cooper's Jack character just realize what he's done and how he's just given this woman the world in terms of her talent on the biggest stage. And just watching Allie just soak it all in and just go for it. And you just see all the emotion going through her as she sings her first lyric to finally when she starts to belt it out and she becomes a star, literally born at that moment, and just what happens throughout the rest of the film. Like I said, there's other fantastic songs in this movie. The end sequence, literally, just like with Avengers Infinity War, rips your heart out, throws it on the ground, and stomps on it. The last song in the movie is incredibly heartbreaking, and while I watched it and I was emotional whilst hearing the last song, the last part of that song, and anyone who's seen the movie knows exactly what I'm talking about, I was like, this is a really, really sad song, I'm sad. But then they added that last part at the end of the song, and that's what destroys me while watching that. And anyone who's seen the movie knows exactly what I'm talking about. Bradley Cooper does a fantastic job of directing. Literally every performance that is done in this movie, it feels like a music video. It is, if you feel like you are on stage with these guys as they're performing it, which is something that outside of Bohemian Rhapsody you don't really feel or see very well. And Bradley Cooper shoots it amazingly throughout the entire film. And like I said, this movie, from beginning to end, it'll make you laugh, it'll make you cry, it'll make you feel things. Bradley Cooper's character is Jack. He does a fantastic job in his role. Like I said, Lady Gaga's Allie, she's gonna win Best Actress. The only person, like I said, better than Toni Collette this year was Lady Gaga's performance as Allie. Bradley Cooper's probably gonna win Best Actor. He's probably gonna win Best Director. This may or may not win Best Picture. It definitely is gonna win Best Song. So this, hands down, is my number one movie of the year. I'm sure it's a lot of people's number one movie of the year, but it is a fantastic film through and through. Cannot say anything but great things about it, and I can't wait to see it again and again and again. And if not, listen to the soundtrack, because the soundtrack is amazing. So, that rounds out the top movies of 2018. I hope you guys enjoyed the list. I love a good debate. Did you like the movies? Did you dislike the movies? Do you think other films should have been rated in the top 10 or 11 if you count Won't You Be My Neighbor that weren't on the list? Feel free to leave your comments below or on the Facebook page. If you guys want to chat about anything else, whether it be movies that you want reviewed or if you want actual reviews of these films outside of what I've already said, feel free to leave those in the comments. And don't forget to like and share the video if you think this video is worth sharing. And like I said, don't forget to hit that subscribe button on this channel as well as the Facebook page so you guys are kept up to date with all the latest news. This is basically the end of the year. I might do a video for top performances of 2018. I feel like that would also be another real long video, and I know that's something that I'm really trying to stop. Kind of shorten these videos a little bit, because I know it's kind of hard for people who are busy to try to watch these. I appreciate everyone who does. So if you actually come through and you watch these videos and you give them a like, thank you for doing that. Thank you for being a subscriber. There is one more long video coming, and that will come out on either the 1st or the 2nd. And that is going to be the most anticipated movies of 2019, where I talk about 25 of the most exciting movies that are coming out in the next year, and they are amazing. But yeah, thank you guys for watching this channel so far. It's only been a little over a month since I've started this. I've already gotten great feedback from people about the show. There will be some new things I will be changing up on the show starting at the beginning of the new year after the anticipated video, to see if I can try to make this show better. Potentially going to be doing other things to try to get the word out better for the show, because I want this thing to grow. And I thank all of you for being on this journey with me and being a part of it. And like I said, if you guys like the show and you guys want to help spread the word, share the video, talk this show up. Tell anyone if you guys have friends who love movies and you know they're gonna like what I have to say about these movies, or not even not like, feel free to send them to the channel. Have them watch the videos. Have them comment. Have them share. Let's get some discussions going. I would love to do some fan questions where I just take a video and just answer questions that you guys have about movies in general. But like I said, thank you everyone who's watched this video and all the videos that have come out since I've started this channel. Hope you guys continue. And thank you for being a subscriber to the channel. Like I said, don't hit that like button if you guys like the video. And until I see you guys again, good morning, good afternoon, and good night, Movie Crusaders.